Hey, all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third-party French candidates and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And yeah, this week I am so excited because last week was, oh yeah, I almost forgot. Last week we talked about Laura Loomer.
Last
Who
week
is,
was terrible.
yeah, it was awful. We talked about a garbage person who succeeded despite her garbage plans.
just total garbage, total grifting garbage.
But we ended the last episode trying to figure out what our official right-wing grift was going to be.
I totally spaced on my homework.
Oh no, well this means we have to improvise one.
Okay.
I feel like I had one years ago, and that's why I initially brought up that idea, and I was just like, oh yeah, I kept trying to remember what it was, and I could not do it.
Part of the problem was I kept thinking of get-rich-quick schemes, because that's...
Yeah, no, they're kind of the same, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But grifting, I feel like grifting goes deeper. Grifting has possibly an ideology behind it.
True, yeah.
Beyond just like reinventing a payday loan scam.
Yeah. Well, and everyone I kept thinking is like, wait, that's a thing, where it's like, a conservative quote-unquote college, like, oh, PragerU, that's a thing. You can't do that.
Oh god, yeah, there's so many of them, frankly.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, you can't do like a new version of Khan Academy, but with just bad opinions. That's been done so many times.
Oh, the university one is really good, though.
Yeah.
Ah.
I think if there's any grift you and I could actually get into and maybe succeed, conservative theater?
Ooh, yeah. And I would not mind taking their money either.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where we'd produce it. It's hard enough getting people to show up to shows in Chicago and New York, let alone anywhere fucking else.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we go to theater deserts.
Ooh,
and
okay.
we bring a really over-the-top, hammer-headed morality tale.
Ooh, yes. Somewhere between like a Hell House and a Trump rally.
Yeah, but with actors that are
Yeah.
not getting SAG-AFTRA from this.
Oh God, no. We're bringing in our friends on the grift so we could like pool our money together and buy a house in the middle of nowhere with a really good bunker.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we have to write, like you said, a morality play.
Yeah.
In which Trump is not mentioned by name. We have to leave a little something there for people to be like, oh, I get it.
The gun is the hero.
It's true.
It's Chekhovian, but not in the way you ever wanted.
No. Oh man. Well, I guess
you also just mentioned, like, I feel like bunkers, that's huge, and that's a cottage industry already,
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
But maybe we could, I don't know, sell like cement mix for DIY basement bunker.
I see what you're saying.
And I think you're on the page. Okay.
Yeah, we got to bring in like the architecture friends that you know, and we create a conservative brand of concrete that is quote unquote best for bunkers.
God approved.
Keeps out liberal tears. And yet somehow melts snowflakes. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go with this. I think this is it.
It is watertight.
Yeah. And essentially all we have to do is go to Lowe's, buy the cheapest concrete we can, and just pour it into different bags.
Like, we have to make sure it is direct shipment from China.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, see us in a year when we build our theater out of Trump brand Quickcrete.
Yeah, listeners, I'm gonna need you all to post on Facebook that you have heard this and that you acknowledge that we were the first to come up with our conservative concrete.
Oh man, yeah. Oh my God, that's the name right there. Conservative Crete.
Concrete ideals.
Ooh, that's even better. That might be a little heady for the market we're going after, but I like it. I like this. I feel like this is a minimal soul sell. This is, you're selling
so minimal.
Your soul for this.
I mean, aside from the environmental impact that we'll leave on the earth.
Well, that's the 10th, if not more. Depends on how many bunkers actually get built, because you know how it is with DIY.
I don't care if they get built. Yeah. I'm just selling the mix.
Yeah.
It's up to you if you make the pancakes.
How much shit do you have in your house for projects that you plan to do but never got around to?
Oh, let's not go there.
You're gonna be like, oh, I dig the hole first. I don't have time to rent a backhoe. Yeah. All right. So see us in a year when we're filthy rich and still morally okay. Fingers crossed. Well, speaking of morally okay,
yay!
I think it's about time on this show that we talk about someone who is good, and not just good for the time. Someone who actually kind of breaks that adage of, oh, it's just how people were at that time. Because this is someone who was just like, no, there are ideas out there that are very radical, and I love them all.
Oh, I can't wait.
So
I can't wait to pave this road to hell with good intentions.
So today we're going back to the 1800s And we're talking about a fellow by the name of Horace Greeley. So Horace was born in 1811 on a farm 5 miles outside of Amherst, New Hampshire. However, it is noted that Horace was unable to breathe until 20 minutes after his birth.
Yikes.
Yeah, not a great start.
That's
All
no,
uphill
yeah.
from here. And
Oh,
unlike so many of the other people that we talk about, Horace's family was incredibly broke. So much so that when Horace was 9, his father up and moved the family to Vermont in order to escape debtors in New Hampshire.
yikes.
Yeah. Oh, and they were farmers. So,
It's a hard life.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you're trying to make corn in New Hampshire. I imagine it's not easy.
Yeah, keep going west. It's going to get so much better.
So, despite moving often, each public school that Horace attended praised him for being an amazing student who would read any book that he could get his hands on. His smarts stood out to the point that the people who knew him offered to pool their money together and send Horace to Phillips Exeter Academy, a boarding school that, to this day, is considered to be one of the best high schools in America.
No, it is like the prep school.
Yeah, it's just reading it. All right, so yeah, here's the thing. I was reading it over a little bit, and a part of me was like, boarding school might have been really fun. And then I remember high school, and I was like, did you want to live at high school when it wasn't great?
This is the thing. I think this is where gender dynamics come into play
Mhm.
because the friends of mine who went to like an all girls boarding school and everything loved it. And then when I talked to my guy friends who went to like an all boys boarding school before college, we're like, and then I got to college and I did not know how to speak to women at all. And I am still working on it. It was terrible. Lord of Flies all the way.
Well, and that's the upside with Phillips Exeter. It's co-ed.
Hey, I didn't
They
know
have
that.
co-ed dorms, which just sounds like a recipe for disaster. But
Oh
I mean,
God.
they're smart kids, so maybe they just know better and are doing things the right way.
Maybe I just assumed they were all legacy kids.
I mean, I'm sure some are, but I was looking over how you got into Phillips Exeter, and apparently it's all blind submissions. So if you get in and you can't afford it, like if your parents don't make up to a certain amount, you just get
Mhm.
in free.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's they just want fucking smart kids. And yeah, there's probably a legacy snot or two, but for the most part, it seems to be just really smart kids
Wow. All
with a
right.
free pipeline to Harvard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so everyone gets together, wants to give Horace all this money to send him to Exeter. However, his father Zachariah was such a proud man that he wouldn't even hear of accepting the money and just turned them all down.
Ah, Zachariah.
So when
Pride comes
Horace was
before
sorry,
the fall.
I know it's like like what not to be a jackass, but just it's not that you can't give your kid something. Give your kid something by accepting this.
Yeah. This isn't about you. It's about Horace.
This isn't about your weird Scotch Irish upbringing, Zachariah. Fucking accept the cash. So when Horace was 11, he made his first attempt to dive into the industry where he would end up making his name. And I assume what he did is he picked up a little bindle full of things a smart 11-year-old thinks they would need in the big Vermont city and ran away from home to become a printer's apprentice. This job, also known as a printer's devil, was a job typically held by a younger person, usually at least a teenager, and it involved mixing the ink and sorting and fetching the metal type letters for the printing process. When little Horace showed up to the print shop, a runaway with a dream, he was immediately told he was too young and he should go home. Which I was kind of surprised because at that time I figured 11-year-olds were perfectly fine to work.
I just assumed everyone loved child labor.
Like, nah, man, we got a 9-year-old. You are
Yeah.
too late.
Costs way less than you.
Doesn't know his letters, but we're working on it.
Oh my God.
Hit them hard enough, they will learn letters.
Oh.
So it turns out 15 is actually the age that you need to be to get that job. And that's the age that Horace would be when he ended up getting a job as a printer's apprentice at the Northern Spectator newspaper in East Pulteney, Vermont. Greeley wouldn't be long for the job, though, because 3 years later, the newspaper would fold. Having no other option, Horace packed up his stuff and moved back in with his parents, who had recently moved again, this time to Erie, Pennsylvania.
How did you find him? Like,
Letters, I guess.
I guess.
I mean, the guy loves to write.
God,
I'm sure he had a printing press, so he just printed out his letters home.
that's fair. It's just one of those things that's like amazing. Like, how did anyone do anything?
I do wonder
How
that
did you?
even prior to the internet, I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and it's just like if you move from one school to another in a different state, it's just like goodbye forever, people I knew.
Yeah. You're lucky if your credits even transfer over.
And so yeah, so he moves back to Erie, Pennsylvania, and for just a bit, we are finally going to have someone to talk about who has lived the typical millennial experience.
Go on.
So when Horace got to Erie, he began looking for work, but just like a millennial, he couldn't find any and had to sustain himself on freelance gigs for about a year.
Shut up.
And eventually he would land a job on the printing team at the Erie Gazette. But it was also during this time that Horace Greeley would discover his third greatest obsession in life. First was knowledge, second was the printing industry, and third is finding new and radical ideas.
Oof.
So Horace had grown up as a Protestant, but at some point in Erie, he was introduced to the idea of universalism. Now, today we mostly ascribe this mode of thought to the Unitarian Universalist Church, which espouses that there is one truth, but no religion has a monopoly on said truth. And this mode of thought intrigued Horace, and within a year, he would consider himself a Universalist,
He's
which I'm
a
sure
little,
made his father very happy.
oh, yeah. Rebel against the dad. Do
Thank-
it.
Thanks for letting me move in. Give me a reason for you to hate me. But look, no shade on Erie, Pennsylvania. I've been there. I think they had a Chi-Chi's when I was there. They had a zoo. It had
I've,
animals, if I
I've
remember right.
driven through many times.
It's a perfectly nice place to live. But Horace didn't see himself as being a lifelong resident of the Great Lakes City. One year after moving to Erie, Greeley struck out to the city where anything could be possible for a young print-obsessed man. New York City.
I thought you were going to say Pittsburgh, but wow,
Oh man,
okay.
that would have been it would have been a true millennial move. I can't afford to move to the big city, so I'm going to
No,
the next biggest city near me.
but you know what is deck? Post-industrial wastelands.
God damn it. So, if the drawing of his first moments in New York City are to be believed, he arrived there with a bindle full of things a smart 20-year-old would think he needs to survive the big city, along with a long, flowing head of hair and a booty that just refuses to goddamn quit.
He's got a little tush.
I mean, according to the picture, it looks like he has a tight little butt.
This guy has everything.
I know. Well, for now.
He's just missing like an ironic wolf tattoo.
You really, the more I was reading about this guy, it's just like, yeah, he's pretty much a hipster millennial in the
Ah,
1830s.
how have we not, I don't know, taken him as our patron saint yet?
It's just most people don't know about him. He was just
This is
kind
so
of a weird guy that history was like, let's just leave this on the floor
and walk away.
and we're good. We got like 80 pages on Lincoln. Don't know where we're
Oh
going
my
to fit
God.
yet. Sorry, man. So, needing a place to live, Horace would move into a boarding house, which is sort of like a blend of a hotel and an Airbnb. So, people would rent out a room of a home for anywhere between a day to a month and share a common room and bathroom. Typically, these homes were used by seasonal workers, people who had just arrived to a city, or people who were in between housing. But Horace couldn't just move into a regular boarding house. No, he happened to move into the one founded on a diet created by Sylvester Graham. So today we mostly know of Sylvester via the cracker that is invented in his name. But it should be noted that he would fucking hate what we have done to his namesake food.
Oh my God, I love this already.
Graham made his living as a Presbyterian minister, which is usually something a chill person does, but not in this case. During the cholera outbreak of 1829 and 1851, Graham would shift his focus into nutrition. You see, medicine at the time, which was so skilled that it killed Presidents Harrison and Taylor, believed that the best way to keep from contracting cholera was to eat a bunch of meat, drink delicious as hell port wine, and avoid vegetables at all cost.
And then wonder why your foot hurts before you die.
Yeah, gout saves you from cholera.
Yes.
Which, I mean, that's a pretty spot on way to not get cholera, which, let me check my notes. The actual way is washing your fucking hands.
The more things change.
Look, man, all you gotta do is eat 16 Big Macs, drink this $15
Bleach.
bottle of port, and if I see you touch a tomato, I am giving you cholera. So, as we know nowadays, cholera is spread by food tainted with fecal matter. So, essentially, you got shit on your food, and then you ate it, and now you have cholera, which is causing you to shit more. It's the circle of life.
Yeah, just don't shit in the water.
Yeah. But back then, more religious folks just assumed the disease was a punishment from God. And this latter opinion fit a lot better within Graham's worldview. So while a member of the Philadelphia temperance movement, which seemed to be very hardcore and very unique, Graham began to formulate his own nutritional followings in defiance of the medical world's recommendations on stopping cholera. Graham's diet would stress the importance of drinking pure water and only eating vegetarian.
He's halfway there.
Yeah,
Just drinking pure water.
he's already a step
Water
ahead of
that
science at the time.
water that someone hopefully hasn't thrown a used diaper in.
But the diaper builds character.
Oh my God. It's the miasma.
But here's where his diet gets a little weird. His diet also banned the use of alcohol, coffee, tea, and any spices whatsoever. No turmeric, no sugar, no cayenne.
Typical white dude. Just because you can't eat anything spicier than mayo, everyone else has to be miserable.
Yep. So Graham's theory behind his whole diet was that Adam and Eve, people who were real, prior to getting evicted from the Garden of Eden, a real place, were clearly vegetarians. Because nowhere in Genesis does it mention them eating any of the animals that they named.
I guess.
And you see, they also suffered no disease, because that would have been in the Bible too. So clearly, only eating vegetarian and drinking pure water means you will never, ever get sick.
Did it mention any eating? Because this is just paradise. That's all the
I mean,
Garden of Eden
obviously, they had to
is.
eat Una. They're humans.
Is it obvious? I don't think think it is.
I mean, they ate an apple. That's oh no. Well, that's a fruit.
Oh,
Fruit's different.
yes.
Fruit's different than vegetables. But what if you wanted bread? Well, there was an option for you. What you had to do is make something that would eventually be known as graham flour. And this would be a coarse flour that you made from whole wheat, and it tasted bad. But the general idea was food shouldn't taste good. You shouldn't
My God.
enjoy eating food. And Graham believed that not only would this diet be able to stop the spread of cholera, but a diet like this would do the best thing possible: keep people from being horny ever again.
And you'll lose 10 pounds.
Oh my God. You'll look great and you won't want to fuck. Everything anyone wants.
I want you to eat these graham crackers and stop fornicating.
I swear to God, if that is a fucking s'more, the devil's treat. So specifically, though, it wasn't just fucking that Graham really wanted to knock out. Very specifically, it was masturbation. And so you know the whole thing where it says like, oh, if you jerk off enough, you go blind. That whole fucking thing.
Yeah, or your hand gets hairy,
Yeah.
or yeah.
Graham invented that.
What?
Yep. So
And now we honor him by smearing oozing warm marshmallow over our faces, sandwiched between two of his crackers.
quite
Delicious
honestly, it makes it
chocolate.
better.
It's so much better.
Yeah, he wrote a book about masturbation that I if I remember right, referred to as like the art of self harm or something like that, some like up its own ass sort of name. And this book, and I'm not even kidding on this, created a masturbation scare in the nation because we've always been really weird reactionary sex freaks. But yeah, the
Yes.
whole thing was if you eat these foods, you will never want to masturbate ever again.
And did it work, Dusty?
Look, I am. This is not the podcast for that, but if you want to listen to the podcast on that, you can listen to Graham Crackers and No Fucking. So yeah, so Horace moved to New York City. He saw this boarding house based on a weird fucking diet, and he's like, "Yes, I want in. I'm moving in today."
Give me
And
them
like
graham flowers.
like a true hipster, Horace got completely into Grahamism a full year before it became a national phenomenon.
Yes.
So Horace would end up getting very into this new diet, so much so that he became a lifelong vegetarian. And when I say that, I mean more so like, yeah, he was a vegetarian. He did have some meat slip ups here and there. You know, it's
Sure.
bacon. What are you going to fucking do? But he
Yeah.
was essentially a lifelong vegetarian after this moment.
Amazing.
But Horace found something else at the boarding house, a little something called love.
Ooh.
He would there meet a teacher by the name of Mary Young Chaney. Mary would best be described as extremely complicated. So the primary source out there seems to be Barbara Goldsmith's 1998 work of nonfiction, Other Powers, which details suffragists and spiritualists of the late 1800s. Mary was indeed both of these things, a staunch supporter of women's right to vote and a believer in the paranormal, specifically mediums. Goldsmith hypothesized that Mary more than likely today would have been diagnosed with either clinical depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, or both.
She also would have had every Stevie Nicks album.
Oh god, yeah, she would have been super into Stevie Nicks.
Nice.
She looks kind of like Mila Kunis a little bit too. It's like she has a
Aw.
very ahead of her time look when you compare to all the other pictures where they're just like dour Protestants who are angry that this camera exists.
Right. And yeah, and they look 55 and you find out that they're just 32.
Yeah. And Mary's just like, no, I went to the fucking salon before this shit. If I'm sitting still, I'm looking good.
Yeah.
So she is often described by many people as a quote, difficult person to like. But Horace and Mary were able to connect. However, Mary would end up leaving the city a few years later for a teaching job in her home state of North Carolina, and the two would have to separate for a bit of time.
Oh,
Once again, the millennial story. You find love,
yeah.
but then the person you love has to move home.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
Ran out of rent money.
It's how it is. You move to the big city with these dreams, and then you forget, oh, yeah, I have to pay first and last month's rent. I only brought enough for maybe that and
What's
nothing else.
What do you mean there's a broker's fee? But I'm renting.
Well, the crazy thing at the time, too, in New York City, and I hope I'm remembering this right, is there used to be a thing called moving day where everyone who was renting would move to a new place.
Like all on the same day.
Everyone, yes.
That still exists in Montreal.
That's
It's July 1st.
insane.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh,
It's so crazy.
oh, God, that's so stressful. But yeah, there's a really good episode of The Dollop about moving day. It is the most bonkers thing I've ever heard. But apparently it was very fun to watch if you owned a house and didn't have to move.
Oh, because I mean, more of my friends are becoming homeowners, but still, the indignity.
Look, dears, the poles are moving. Isn't it funny how little they have?
Oh, what I would give to own a U-Haul service right now.
Oh my god, yeah, our sales are really shit until that one day, and then it's
But
bang.
it is Christmas season, y'all.
Yeah, we go from a staff of 500 to 3 in a day. So in 1832, Horace would get his first big city printing job, working for the Spirit of the Times, a newspaper directed towards upper-class sportsmen. Because this is the weird thing is I kind of feel like newspapers then were a lot like podcasts now, where there were
Mhm.
just so many different unique newspapers that you could sustain yourself on a weird concept alone.
Yes.
So the full name of the Spirit of the Times was Spirit of the Times, a chronicle of the turf, agriculture, field sports, literature, and the stage. Because if there's anything I know, the two things that people love most, it's football and off-Broadway theater.
Yeah, it just immediately there was like the one of these things is not like the other.
Look,
One
we
of
got a
these,
theater reviewer. Let's just run with it.
like
But
it's
yeah, it was just
fine.
like their top three things were sports articles, humor material, and then theater. It was just a weird mishmash of shit that it's like, yeah, I would have fucking loved that newspaper back then, but I don't know
You
that many
would.
people like me who are like, yeah, I love the Cleveland Browns and freaking Paula Vogel. Like, where do I fit? Where's my newspaper? So yeah, so Horace would work for the Spirit of the Times, and throughout that year, saved his money as much as he could because he had a goal, and there was a goal that he was able to achieve by the end of the year. Horace bought his own print shop.
Moving on up, Horace.
So initially, he would fund his print shop by publishing a tri-weekly paper called The Constitutionalist. Now, calling it a newspaper, once again, kind of a bit of a stretch, because mostly what it just reported was lottery results, which blows my mind because there were so many lotteries going on that you could produce a paper 3 times a
What?
week and fill it.
What?
Yeah.
And then also call it the Constitutionalist?
Yeah, perfect name, right?
What? Was that, I mean, is that just a way to like not have to pay for for like an editorialist, a couple like journalists?
I mean, honestly, I think it was just there was a need and he filled it. I think that's
Amazing.
literally all it was.
Amazing.
So his side project, though, would end up being a paper called the New York Morning Post, and this would be his first attempt actually at editing a newspaper. Horace would partner with a physician named Horatio D. Shepard. Horatio would run the paper and Horace would edit. You know, which is a perfectly good job for a 21-year-old to have, editing his
Okay.
own newspaper.
Ugh.
Yeah, we're back to this one now. So the Morning Post is considered to be one of the first ever penny press newspapers. And these papers were mass produced, super cheap, and usually no better than tabloid news. So the initial idea between Horatio and Horace was that they were going to sell this newspaper for a penny, but they quickly realized the only way they could make a profit is if they sold it for 2 cents, but they still kind of get to count as a penny press because they invented the idea. And so
Yeah.
sadly, the idea really wouldn't work for them. For the first couple weeks, they sold the paper for 2 cents. It was too expensive for people, so they knocked it down to 1 cent. But by that point, no one was buying it, and the paper folded within a month, mainly because Horatio and Horace just didn't have that much money to really spend. Meanwhile, the New York Sun would eventually pick up on this and become a how many years did they run? They ran until 1950, I believe, and became
Really?
an incredibly successful newspaper based on this penny press idea.
Did they didn't end up moving and becoming part of the Chicago Sun-Times? It wasn't like a
No,
conglomerate that happened. They just
no,
folded.
it's just
Got
a
it.
different thing.
Cool.
Yeah, they just
Great.
fell apart in 1950. I think they might have merged with someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was a local New York paper by then.
Mm.
So the next year, Horace added a brand new magazine to his shop with the New Yorker. Now, before you get excited, this is not the modern day New Yorker. This is a New Yorker with a
Cartoons?
this is a New Yorker with a hyphen between new and Yorker. I do not fucking know why.
because because the New Yorker of the future came back with a time machine. It was like, hey, I'm gonna fuck you up if you don't put a hyphen in there.
We put Ronan Farrow in a time machine and we told him to threaten
If anyone's gonna
Horace
have a time
Greeley.
machine, yes. Yes.
Yeah, it was a really weird thing. I was seeing a lot of these old timey newspapers and they have a hyphen between new and York in so many of these. It's very confounding.
Because
But
that was just a thing.
I guess that was AP style back then. Who
Yeah.
knows? And this is where it's with the New Yorker that Horace would begin to make his name. It would end up having a pretty respectable circulation base of about 9,000 people and focused mostly on literature and politics. But this is also where Horace would coin the phrase, "Go West, young man."
Oh, shut up.
Now, at the time, the West was more so what we call the Midwest. So here,
Mhm.
Illinois.
Hey, we made it.
Yeah. In one of his articles, Greeley would proclaim, "Fly, scatter through the country, go to the Great West, anything rather than remain here." So it kind of feels
Uh,
like a hipster sort of thing. Like, imagine if the hipsters, in Wicker Park, let's say about 12 years ago, when
mhm.
people were showing up there, were just like, "Hey guys, look, I know we just made it. You need to get the fuck out of town. You need to go
Yeah,
somewhere else. Fucking the
to
lot's
leave.
full."
Yeah, we gentrified this. You can go.
Well, what's the potential of national fame without love, Una? What is it? You tell me what it is, Una. It's
Money?
nothing. That's what it is.
Oh,
Life is nothing without love. And that's why Horace traveled down to North Carolina and he got married to Mary Young Cheney.
he did. Oh,
And sure, he might have used it as a business trip to stop by Congress on the way down to North Carolina, but it's a long trip. You know what? He was staying in DC, might as well check out Congress. And sure, on the way back, he decided they shouldn't take a honeymoon and that he should get immediately back to work, but that's how love works, Una.
that's. I mean, were there honeymoons back then?
Yeah, there were.
Oh,
There very much were. If you had the money, you could stop working for a little bit and hang
that's
out.
true.
But yeah,
Start
it's
that
like
family.
you're taking a carriage ride from North Carolina back to New York City. Maybe you could take a break at some
That
point.
is the break.
Look, honey, we'd have a honeymoon, but I stopped by Congress for a little bit, and you know how expensive Congress gets.
I always tell you it's the journey, not the destination. Get back in the carriage. We
No,
have
do
to
not
keep
go to
good
Myrtle
time.
Beach. That is 2 hours off our trip.
Hilton Head has yet to be invented.
Now, there's no good place to put this information, but Barbara Goldsmith was pretty clear that Horace and Mary's marriage was not a very good one. As previously said, Mary more than likely suffered from undiagnosed mental illness, and Horace, while genuinely in love with Mary, did not seem to know how to help her and was so obsessed with his own work that he wasn't physically present to offer even a basic level of support.
Oh, I mean, the first one's understandable. The second one is heartbreaking.
Yeah. So Goldsmith goes as far to say that Horace actively avoided Mary and that Mary refused to give Horace any say in how their home was run. But as was noted, Horace kept Mary pregnant pretty regularly.
Are they Irish?
I mean, Horace at least part was. I'm pretty sure Mary Cheney sounds pretty Irish.
That's true.
The two ended up having 7 children, of which 5 would die in childhood.
Mm.
So 5 child deaths, those are pretty tragic on their own. But the life of their son Arthur is particularly crushing. Now, Arthur they had nicknamed Pickle, and at some point, Mary came to believe that he was a spirit medium and was capable of communicating with the dead.
Oh no.
This would lead Mary to isolate him and constantly demand that he gave her communications from those who had passed.
Oh no.
This would lead Arthur to openly hate his mother, which must be a terrifying thing to hear from a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
However, Arthur would die at the age of 5 from cholera, which Mary reacted to by hiring an 11-year-old by the name of Kate Fox. Now, Kate Fox is one of the Fox sisters, who are nationally famous mediums and complete frauds.
Oh yeah. I think there's a criminal episode about
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mary had Kate live with the family for a time to try to communicate with Arthur. Kate would later state that she, quote, intensely disliked Miss Greeley, which
Oh.
kind of fucked up for an 11-year-old to say. So yeah, so it's as much as I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think when you have enough historians being like, no, this isn't just men being like, she wouldn't, do the housework or anything. It's like,
Murder
no,
for a
Mary,
witch.
Mary had severe undiagnosed mental illness and no one to help her out.
Yeah. Yeah. And 5 kids that died.
Yeah, that's not good. It's not going to
Nope.
help your mental state that well. So shifting gears, when 1838 rolled around, Horace was introduced to the world of politics. At that time, he caught the eye of a fellow newspaperman named Thurlow Weed, who was the editor of the Albany Evening Journal in Albany, New York. Now, we could get deeper into Thurlow's life, but I have a feeling he's going to be getting an episode of his own, seeing as how he was one of the leaders of the anti-Masonic Party in 1828.
Yes.
So we'll skip ahead to 1838, when Thurlow was all in on William Seward's gubernatorial campaign in New York. Now, William Seward, you might remember from the Lincoln episodes, he was the guy that everyone
Mhm.
thought was going to be the Republican nominee, and then he wasn't. And he took it well. So at the time, both Weed and Seward were Whigs, but they needed a new man to run a Whig-sponsored newspaper to help push Seward's campaign. Thanks to Greeley's rising name, Weed felt he would be the best man to head up the brand newspaper, the Jeffersonian. Later in the year, William Seward would win the governorship, and Horace would become a key player in liberal Whig politics. So much so that when 1840 rolled around, he was highly influential in the election of William Henry Harrison. Horace started a brand new Whig newspaper called the Log Cabin, which was named due to the folksy image that the party was pushing for Harrison, and would
Amazing.
write a number of pro-Harrison songs that became very prevalent at party rallies. Weed then used his various connections to turn the Log Cabin into a national newspaper for the Harrison campaign, causing the circulation to hit 80,000 homes.
Ka-ching.
So, sensing a second chance, Horace began soliciting donations from all of his friends. Before long, he had enough money to begin his second attempt at his own newspaper, the New York Tribune, hyphen between New and York. The first edition was published on the day of Harrison's memorial parade in New York City. Greeley described his paper as, quote, a new morning journal of politics, literature, and general intelligence. While the paper would fare better than his previous morning post, it wasn't really much of a hit in New York City. Sales were at least decent enough to keep it going, but Horace's new paper really wasn't what you would call a booming initial success. What it was, though, was bold and refreshingly unique. See, the paper was openly against the expansion of slavery, particularly in the new state of Texas, encouraged pacifism over war at all points, and was openly feminist. And not only did he espouse feminist ideals, but Horace actually hired women.
Horace, you're a woke bae.
Now, a lot of this I think he got from Mary because Mary was a full on suffragist, as I said before. There
Yeah.
is one story I found, but I couldn't find it while I was writing this up. But it was essentially Mary was heading up a suffragist organization, and she had written a proposal saying that all women, whether they own property or not, should be allowed to vote. And Horace had no clue that she put it forward until it was being voted on.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean,
power
Horace was a guy,
couple.
he loved new ideas, and this whole feminism thing's pretty
Yeah,
fucking cool. It's
yeah.
really radical. And he went all in. So in 1844, Margaret Fuller joined the writing staff as their full-time literary critic, and in 1846 was promoted to editor of the division. Fuller wrote 250 columns under the pseudonym of just a simple Asterix, in which she wrote about the abolition of slavery and women's rights. In her free time, she also promoted the works of Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ah, she's living the dream. Getting paid for it.
So one of the odder ideas that Horace pushed in his paper would be the views of French philosopher Charles Fourier. Is this a
Okay.
fellow you've heard of?
I have because I'm that asshole who's very recently rewatched Metropolitan.
Oh, you are going to love the next page.
I cannot wait.
So Horace was super into Charles Fourier. And so Fourier is considered to be one of the founders of utopian socialism. So what Fourier proposed was that two things brought success to a community, and that was concern and cooperation. And so to encourage this, he wanted people to live in four-floor apartment buildings called phalanxes. The richest would live at the top floors with the poorest on the bottom floors. However, the twist is that the people doing the least desirable jobs would be paid the most, and people would equally share from the monetary results of their investments in labor. But we should also mention that this has a bit of a ton of anti-Semitism involved,
Oh my god.
because Fourier viewed trade as, quote, the source of all evil, and thought that all Jews should be forced out of trade and forced to do farm work.
What? This is a guy who got a bad deal on a marble inlay table and has been salty about it ever since.
Don't you know who I fucking am? I'm Charles Fourier.
And boy, yay!
They're going to name a part of a house after me and spell it wrong.
Oh my god.
So Greeley viewed this as a thought process that could genuinely create a utopian society, and holy crap if creating a utopic society wasn't all the rage in the 1840s. What's referred to as the Second Great Awakening, a bunch of religious groups tried their level best to create a perfect place to live based on their own specific tenets. And compared to some of the successful attempts, Fourierism was downright sensible sounding. For example, let's look at the Oneida community in New York, which was founded on the idea that Jesus actually returned in 70 AD and that they could recreate heaven on earth if they just tried hard enough. And
They have
nowadays, they're a silverware company.
yeah, the silverware is lovely. Also, there were many orgies.
Oh yeah, free love is a huge part of a lot of this.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we'll take your red meat, Graham.
But also look at the Shakers of Pleasant Hill, Kentucky, who founded a town on the
Yes.
ideals of gender equality, no one ever fucking, and making really good furniture.
So good. It's such nice furniture.
And then we have Brook Farm, Massachusetts, which was founded on the hope that if everyone pulled their labor together, then everyone could finish the day early and have more time for personal literary and scientific pursuits. And actually, that one sounds pretty good. I really like that one.
Yeah, I like that. That works.
So, how a Fourieristic utopia worked in America is best described in a short pamphlet written in 1886 by Charles Sears, a resident of Silkville, Kansas, which was a post-war Fourierism utopia that lasted for about 23 years and subsisted on making silk. So, to give an idea of how what was dubbed the North American Phalanx, which was outside of the town of Red Bank, New Jersey, and lasted for about 13 years, which is a huge outlier compared to the rest. So, work would be split apart by various groups or series. There was going to be agriculture, domestic work, manufacturing, working with stock, so essentially all the animal work that was outside of farming, educational work, and festal, which was all entertainment.
Ooh, sign me up for Festal.
Yeah. And so after that, they're like, all right, what jobs have we not covered so far? And so they got a group together to figure that out to create 3 new series that would fit within that. And so within that, they formed essentially maintenance, so trash pickup and things like that. They had
Yes.
a category called repugnant functions, which I imagine is sewage,
Yep.
all the gross work. And then the final one was receiving and care for anyone who visited. And
Oh,
so
so like
everyone,
hospitality?
exactly, yeah. And so everyone would be in these groups. It would be anywhere from 3 to 7 people within each different group. Each person would vote for who was the head of the department that they were in. They would all do their work. If other departments needed a little bit of extra help, people would shift over and help out in those regards. And then at the end of the year, they would put together all the money that they had raised doing their various farming and animal work and table making, I assume. They would take,
Tablescaping.
yeah, tablescaping. They would take that money together and everyone would vote on how much each person worked. And
What?
as a group, people would decide, all right, you worked the hardest, so you're getting the most.
Except it would be the opposite of that. It would be someone pointing being like, "I haven't seen you lift a finger in this entire year's end,
Mhm.
so you can fuck off with getting any of this money."
Yeah, you are not wrong. People would be very easy to tell who did not work and who was getting next to nothing. But yeah, that was generally the idea of how things would be run is that everyone's working together, like no one's above the next man. There's equal genders amongst everyone. Fourier was actually very huge into feminism to the point that people think he actually came up with the word.
Ooh,
But yeah, it was a very unique sort of socialist, kind of sort of libertarian, kind of sort of anarchic little
yeah.
community where people
And it
just helped each other.
and it actually worked for 13 years?
It worked for 13 years in one place. So between the years of 1841 and 1846, 32 Fourier utopias would be founded in America. One of which, the Sylvania Association in Northwest Pennsylvania, had Horace as their official treasurer.
Oh,
But much like the other Fourier towns, Sylvania would only last for about 2 years. Of the 32, the average length of existence was a year and 9 months. 12 of them didn't even make it for a full year. But the North American phalanx near Red Bank, New Jersey, like I said, lasted 13 years, making it one hell of an outlier. And
oh,
Silkville in Kansas lasted for 23 years until complete financial ruin, which was pretty much
holy
the
cow.
thing that ruined a lot of these towns is that it was a cool idea. They just couldn't figure out a way to financially sustain it.
I mean, it's part of the problem, like, trying to create this sort of community and pretend like you are surrounded by capitalism.
I mean, essentially, yeah, and it's the idea that you need the outside world and the capitalist world a lot less than you think.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened at the North American Phalanx, though, is that they were so focused on being able to sustain themselves that towards the end they weren't making enough money to actually keep giving people real money, and so people had to start being paid in scrip. And yeah, and so that's just kind of what doomed a lot of these places is that
Uh,
they just while a number of them were known for making really good products, they just weren't able to sustain it long term.
yeah, because if you take away the almighty dollar
Mhm.
as like a factor, sure, just continue on.
Well, yeah,
What
and those
what
first years have to be rough because I mean, using the shitty amount of business knowledge I have, you need at least 3 years before a business is going to start making money. And if you're running a pseudo communist socialist sort of society, it's going to be really, really hard to make whatever you're making a name brand in the community.
yeah, and if I don't know, you've ended up with a group of people for whom most are best used as the entertainment
Oh my God.
and tablescaping.
Look,
Yeah.
I would not mind spending 2 years getting paid to just do entertainment for a group of weirdos. That's like that's an easy job. It's like,
So let's what are we waiting for? Let's sign up for medieval times.
wait, are you saying that medieval times is actually a Fourierist utopia? Oh my,
Yes.
love it, fucking love it. So while the Tribune was doing decently locally, Horace was already working on a bigger plan. He wanted the Tribune to go national. And in 1841, Horace would test his ability to do this by merging the log cabin Whig newspaper with his magazine, The New Yorker, and establish what he called the Weekly Tribune. The paper cost $2 a year and was an immediate success throughout the Midwest. Seeing
Ooh.
him rising even higher, the Whig Party offered Horace a chance to run their national newspaper, the Madisonian. Horace agreed, but only if he could have complete control of the newspaper. The Whigs said no, and Horace moved on.
Oh, such a principled man.
And so the success of this merging of the newspapers definitely led towards Horace pushing the Tribune to a national newspaper around this time. So the next few years would be fairly calm politically for the paper. They would endorse Henry Clay, the Whig nominee for president in 1844, and stick pretty solidly to Whig issues. But when 1848 rolled around, things got a little more complicated. The Whigs had nominated Zachary Taylor, but Greeley was less than enthused. Taylor had been a hero in the Mexican American War, a cause that Greeley was vehemently against, and feared that Taylor was far more prepared to expand into Mexico and create more slave states for the South. For the first time, Greeley considered leaving the Whigs, going as far as to consider endorsing former President Martin Van Buren, who had just been nominated by the anti slave expansion Priest Oil Party. But after pressure from the party, Horace endorsed Taylor, and he was awarded with his newest addiction political power.
Bum bum bum.
So in 1846, Horace's congressional district, New York's 6th, had held an election between Democrat David S. Jackson, Whig James Monroe, not the president, and incumbent of the American Know Nothing Party, William W. Campbell. The race was close, and Jackson would end up winning by 143 votes. But second place finisher, not former President Monroe, would contest the results, and after more than a year of deliberation, the House would just annul the results, remove Jackson from the position for election fraud, and declare the seat vacant.
Oh my God, more than a year? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people need to calm down in 2020.
Guys, we are sending letters as fast as we can. We are figuring this out. With 3 months remaining on the seat, a special election was held, And as thanks for endorsing Zachary Taylor, the Whigs gave the nomination to Horace, which Horace would easily win with 53% of the vote. However, the Whigs had to nominate someone for the regular election after Horace winning, and they chose to go with someone else.
Oh,
So no matter what, Horace was only going to be a congressman for 3 months.
oh, wow. Twist the knife in the man's front. It's why you gotta stab him in the back like that.
So historically, most people who serve those kinds of short filler terms don't do much beyond voting on party lines and moving on. We're here talking about Horace Greeley, the man who chose
Yes.
work over a honeymoon. He,
Yes.
this man cannot and will not quit. So he immediately got to work and, by his own accounts, found a way to piss off literally the entire Congress.
Oh, I love to see it.
Initially, he introduced legislation for a Homestead Act that would make it possible for settlers to buy land that they improved on their own at a cheaper rate than land speculators. It failed. He began reporting on Congress members who missed votes. He openly wondered, why the fuck do we even have a House chaplain? He published an article in his own newspaper detailing the large amounts of cash congressmen were receiving under the guise of travel allowance.
Damn.
Horace would write to a friend that he had, quote, divided the House into two parties, one that would like to see me extinguished, and the other that wouldn't be satisfied without a hand in doing it.
Yes.
Horace would introduce bills that would limit congressional travel allowances, end flogging in the Navy as punishment, ban alcohol from Navy ships, abolish slavery in Washington, D.C., and change the name of the United States to Columbia, with a U, not an O.
That last what?
Don't know why. I mean,
Fine.
I guess it sounds better.
Fine. He's bringing receipts. Who cares?
Every single one of his bills failed, and in 3 months, Horace had made enemies out of nearly everyone in the U.S. government.
Oh, burn that bridge.
The one kind of bright side, though, is that he'd end up meeting a one-term congressman by the name of Abraham Lincoln, who, after the end of his term, would not really hate Horace that much.
Shut up. Oh my gosh, it's like a meet cute. But for our podcast episodes.
So Horace would return home and get right back to work on his paper. In 1850, Jane Swisshelm was hired as the paper's DC correspondent and became the first woman ever admitted into the reporters' gallery at the U.S. House of Representatives.
Love.
Weirdly enough, the Tribune was actually the first newspaper to ever have a DC correspondent, and newspapers very quickly followed after that.
Man, this is such a trailblazer.
And in 1851, he would hire a brand new correspondent based out of London to cover European issues, a little upstart by the name of Karl Marx. Yep. Yep. Karl Marx used to write
This
for an
Gump
American
of
newspaper.
journalism in early 1800.
It's kind of bonkers, yeah. And Greeley would state, "Yeah, I don't agree with Karl Marx, but the dude's a really good thinker, and it would be a crime for people not to actually read what he has to say."
He's got great ideas, and I love me some ideas.
Well, and the thing with Marx is they actually got kind of a 2-for-1 special because under his byline, they would also end up publishing articles that were secretly written by Frederick Engels.
Ah,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
Were they joined at the hip? Marx just hung over some days.
Look, Fred, I really need you to write this thing. I got just fuck the bourgeoisie. Just go with that. So by 1852, Greeley's love affair with the Whigs was beginning to fall apart. As we mentioned in the 1860 election episodes, the Whigs were falling apart due to half of them supporting slavery and the other half being against the expansion of it. Greeley was staunchly on the side of opposing it. So when the Whigs came out and supported the Compromise of 1850 and their presidential party platform, Greeley took it to the Tribune to just rip his party apart, declaring of the Whig party platform, quote, "We defy it, execrate it, spit upon it." And then he still endorsed Whig nominee for president Winfield Scott.
Having said that, I nominate.
Look, Winfield's a good man. His platform's bullshit.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
So the things that Greeley had to say about the Whigs probably didn't lead to them losing that year, but it definitely didn't help Greeley standing within the Whigs.
Yeah.
By the next year, Greeley would print an editorial stating that the Tribune was no longer aligned with the Whigs, and the paper was now nonpartisan. The Tribune would now take every opportunity possible to degrade the idea of the expansion of slavery, but would go even further and now espouse the complete abolition of it.
Yeah.
So when Bleeding Kansas kicked off, Horace would actually send settlers from New York to Kansas to increase the number of free state settlers there. And not only that, sent them armed.
Yes. Go West.
And with this shift in tone, the Tribune started to lose a lot of subscribers in the South.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's fewer people in the South. They're going to take a small hit.
Yep.
But despite the South essentially banning the sale of the Tribune, Horace's paper had reached a weekly subscription base of 300,000 homes. By
Wow.
1858, he had created the most powerful newspaper in the nation, a paper that journalist Bayard Taylor would describe as second only to the Bible in the Midwest.
Damn.
After leaving the Whigs, Horace would need a new home, in more ways than one. First, he moved his family from the city to Westchester County, specifically the town of Chappaqua, Or he would spend his free time trying out experimental farming techniques. You know, calm shit.
Listen, everyone needs a hobby.
He would also design and build his own home on the land, a completely concrete structure that he dubbed Rehoboth, named after a town founded by Isaac in the book of Genesis. And it was one of the first completely concrete buildings in America, and it still stands to this day.
And it is the model for our upcoming business venture, Concrete Ideals.
God damn it. Buy the Rehoboth model. It's like stucco, but outside.
Jesus approved.
Now, ideologically, Horace's new home would be with the brand new Republicans, and really was a perfect fit for everything that was happening and for what Horace believed. It is even believed by some that he coined the name for the new party, but that's more than likely apocryphal. Horace, though, was present at many of the early Republican meetings and was very much welcomed by those involved. So in 1854, Horace became an official Republican. But you know, as they say, when God opens a door, he makes sure at least two of your friends decide to hate you. So it turns out after Horace left the US House, he never really stopped reporting on patronages received and given by people in power. And caught in the crosshairs of that reporting were fellow New Republicans and his old friends, Thurlow Weed and now Senator William Seward. It also didn't help much that Horace was certain that Seward was making a move to court the rival New York Times for support. So what would permanently break his friendship, though, would be the Republican Convention of 1860. That's right, we're going back to the wigwam of
We're
Chicago,
back.
Illinois, y'all. Lincoln's
Yes.
there. He's not a front runner. Seward is. Seward is all but certain he's going to win. But who else is there? Horace fucking Greeley, motherfuckers. And you know what? He's not just there as a spectator. Turns out a delegate from Oregon couldn't make it, and they're like, hey, Horace, I know you've never been to Oregon, but do you want to take the guy's place? And Horace said, yes, I always say yes.
Yes. Call me Shonda Rhimes because this is my year of yes.
So initially, Horace would support Missouri Congressman Edward Bates, but he wasn't very good at getting other people to vote for Edward Bates, and the cause seemed to be pretty lost. And as we said in our last episode, Seward would lead the ballots, but never have enough to outright win. And sensing an opening, Lincoln's folks made the case and got him nominated. And while Seward would get the consolation prize of Lincoln's Secretary of State, he would solely blame Horace Greeley for costing him the presidency, which was probably bullshit, but he hated him already, so
Yeah.
fuck it. But you want to know the good news? Now that Seward is Secretary of State, that means that the Senator of New York job is suddenly open. And Horace knows exactly who would be perfect for that job.
Horace?
Oh, fuck yeah, Horace. He hasn't pissed off the whole Senate yet. It's only the House that hates him.
Hell yeah.
And yeah,
It's a whole new chamber.
He probably shouldn't go for a job that lasts at least 6 years when it only took him 3 months to piss off everyone else the last time and made his life a living hell. But you know what? He has a fucking taste for this shit. It tastes terrible, but he still wants it.
He tastes terrible, but if there's anything that he learned from Mr. Graham, it's supposed to taste terrible. That's what keeps him from masturbating constantly.
Oh my god. And that's why there's never been any sexual issues with members of Congress.
Oh god. The end. Podcast over.
So Horace spent the entire election season not just hyping up Lincoln, but displaying himself as the anti-corruption, anti-Seward vote for Senate. And just as a reminder, the state houses are the people who select who goes to the Senate at this time, not the actual people. So by the time the New York House got to vote, Horace actually positioned himself fairly well for victory. And he may have actually won it too, if it wasn't for the other person he pissed off, Thurlow Weed. Thurlow was out for blood, and he threw his support behind attorney and Seward supporter William M. Evarts. After initial voting, though, it became clear that neither Evarts or Greeley were going to have enough votes to win the nomination. So Weed looked at who the Republicans had voted for and saw a number of them had voted for former state Supreme Court Judge Ira Harris. Weed immediately shifted his support to Harris, and Greeley would end up finishing second, with Harris prevailing.
Oh man, this is so petty.
Weed would refer to this move as having, quote, paid the first installment on a large debt to Mr. Greeley.
Whoo boy.
Harris would go on to easily win and serve for one full term.
Can we also just pause and appreciate the naming of some of these players?
Oh, they're great. They're really
like
good names.
Seward, Thurlow Weed, Horace.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about the time, but New York was really good at naming people for a while.
This is solid name action.
So the Civil War would be a bit of a weird time for Horace. His newspaper would remain the #1 periodical throughout the fight, but this would be a period of time in which Horace would wildly shift back and forth on his views, oftentimes contradicting his most important ideals within months of each other. And the main victim of this would be his devout belief of pacifism. So leading into the war, Horace would support the idea of just allowing the South to peacefully secede. In an editorial, his paper would state, if the Cotton States shall become satisfied that they can do better out of the Union than in it, we insist on letting them go in peace. The right to secede may be a revolutionary one, but it exists nevertheless. And whenever a considerable section of our Union shall deliberately resolve to go out, we shall resist all coercive measures designed to keep it in. We hope never to live in a republic whereof one section is pinned to the residue by bayonets. But as Lincoln's inauguration came closer, the paper shifted from a peaceful disunion to an editorial section being headlined daily by the banner, quote, "No compromise, no cessation to traitors, the Constitution as it is." And after the attack on Fort Sumter, the paper cheered that the North would finally attack the South and railed against Lincoln for not immediately sending troops in.
God, it's acting like the recently brokenhearted.
So the Tribune would coin the phrase "on to Richmond" as the battle cry to shove Lincoln into war and to encourage the public to push the president out of inaction. And while it can't be entirely put on Horace, public pressure was incredibly huge at the time, and was probably the reason that Lincoln sent an unprepared and overconfident Union army into its first major battle at Bull Run, where the Union was beaten badly by the outnumbered South. And following this defeat, Greeley had a nervous breakdown.
Oh boy.
So he'd go home to Rehoboth, chill out for 2 weeks before he returned to the paper, and he would return 100% pro Lincoln. Horace would even go as far as to offer this deal. If Lincoln were to give him the inside scoop on his policies, he would guarantee favorable articles from the Tribune the entire time, which Lincoln immediately agreed to.
Oh, damn.
But by 1862, Horace was already starting to back out on that promise, primarily because of Lincoln's skittishness on announcing the emancipation of all enslaved peoples following the end of the war. By this point, Lincoln had passed a law guaranteeing compensated emancipation for border states that stayed aligned with the Union and outright banned slavery in D.C., but Horace would not let up until Lincoln guaranteed full emancipation. So, in August of 1862, Horace wrote a letter to Lincoln entitled "A Prayer for 20 Millions." It is long and marked by 9 sections which blend between request and critiques, but the general gist is that people have waited too long, and it is more than about time for Lincoln to publicly declare emancipation, and accuses Lincoln of being swayed by, quote, "timid counsels, more interested in calculated choices than making the moral decisions." He then published the letter in the Tribune the very next day. What Horace didn't know, though, is that Lincoln was actually finished with an early draft of the Emancipation Proclamation by the time he got the letter.
Oh,
And he had informed Horace of this
no.
just a little bit after the paper went to print and was sent out.
So awkward.
The thing was, Lincoln would reply to this very, very strongly, stating that it was more important to him to save the Union than it was to end slavery, which did not go over well in the North. Abolitionists were pissed. Liberal Republicans were pissed. William Seward's wife went so far as to say you would think Lincoln would be more interested in the welfare of his fellow man than winning a war.
Yep.
But as we all know, Lincoln would issue the Emancipation, and Greeley would hail the action as, quote, "a great boon to freedom." Despite their back and forth, Lincoln did still hold a great respect for Greeley, and more than once placed Horace in charge of potential peace talks. Initially, Lincoln had Horace speak to the French ambassador to see if they might be interested in opening a mediated peace accord between the North and South. But Seward didn't support the plan, and after the Union victory at Antietam, it began to appear that the North might actually be able to win outright with no need to make concessions to end the war. The second attempt, however, would be a bit more embarrassing. In 1864, Horace had found out that there might be a group of Confederates in Niagara Falls, Canada, that were not only interested in peace, but actually had the authority to declare the end of the war. Horace informed Lincoln of this, and Abraham sent Horace north to see if a peace could be negotiated. When Horace arrived, the Confederates began acting very sketchy. They refused to show credentials. They refused to travel to D.C. to take part in peace talks. They refused to give any proof that they actually had any real authority. And in actuality, it was all a setup. It had been formed by anti-war Northern Democrats to make Lincoln look bad, and Horace played right into it. So not only did this make the Lincoln administration look foolish, but it caused Lincoln to lose complete faith in Horace Greeley.
Oh no. Horace, you played yourself.
But by then, the feeling was mutual. Horace was in the midst of planning a way to replace Lincoln in the 1864 ballot. Greeley went as far as to state in the Tribune that Lincoln didn't stand a chance of winning the election, and that the Republicans should nominate someone else before it was too late. The closest this plea got was when the Missouri delegation of the Republican convention threw their support behind General Ulysses S. Grant on the first ballot. However, when they found out everyone else voted for Lincoln, they very quickly revised their votes to Lincoln and acted like nothing happened.
La 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 la.
Oh man, that's weird how you spelled that.
Oh my gosh. I must have been as drunk as Ulysses when I wrote that. My bad.
But Horace, being Horace, he would try again 2 months later to kick Lincoln off the ticket. Once again, the momentum of the war was swaying to the South, and Horace was terrified of a Democrat victory that would result in a permanent disunion or the readmittance of the South as slave state. His plan was to call a rogue Republican convention that would nominate a new candidate and then use party and public pressure to get Lincoln to relinquish his nomination. But then the Battle of Atlanta happened. Sherman's march to the sea had left a wake of destruction, split the South in half, and portended the North's eventual victory. Suddenly, Lincoln was all but guaranteed to win re-election. And Horace became completely adamant that everyone now had to vote for Lincoln. And I've always been 100% Lincoln, bro. What are you talking about, man?
Oh my God, Horace, pick a lane.
War was a tough time for Horace Greeley and his beliefs.
Ugh.
And as we all know, Lincoln would win, the North would win, Lincoln would be killed. But 1865 would also be one hell of a turning point for Horace. It would be the moment that he would turn from newspaper man to a true political gadfly that would hit his peak in the 1872 presidential election.
Hey.
And that rise is what we will be talking about next time.
Oh my goodness.
Gadfly.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate Horace as a good person in general, but then on 1 to 10 compared to everyone else?
Oh, okay. Compared to everyone else, I'd put him at like an 8 or a 9. I feel like in general, it's just like he sounds like your friend in college who's really involved with the Purge chapter. Did you have this? It's like,
I don't think so.
yeah, it's an activist group. They take on college kids, and then those college kids go and like knock on doors and ask people to sign up to like stop environmental
Also, they're like the clipboard
violence.
kids in downtown Chicago.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Very much like that. But yeah, so yeah, Horace just seems like the friend who got involved in that because they were always like socially and politically aware in high school. And then it's just like, oh no, you drank the Kool-Aid and it's impossible to get a beer with you now
Yeah,
because
I
you're a lot.
totally get that. Yeah, it's one thing to be into like a couple of really unique ideas and be really passionate about it, but it's another thing to be like, here's 80 ideas that I'm a 10 at on all of them.
Here's 80 ideas. And also I have 3 months in Congress. Let's go, motherfuckers.
There's actually a quote I really need to read. When Horace said that his newspaper was no longer a Whig newspaper, one of the Whigs that did not like him had a rather scathing thing to say about it. If a party is to be built up and maintained on Fourierism, mesmerism, Maine liquor laws, spiritual wrappings, Kossuithism, socialism, abolitionism, and 40 other isms, we have no disposition to mix with any such companions.
Translation, you can't sit here.
Look, I will listen to you about one of those. I don't.
Pick one. I'm trying to eat.
Spoiler alert, I know nothing about any of them, so we're not actually having a conversation. We're having a lecture, Horace.
God damn it, Horace.
Go home to your wife, please. Oh, it's difficult. Okay.
No.
Oh man. So yeah, so next time we'll be talking about Horace's gung-ho political career and his time kind of moving away from the newspaper world.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But yeah, I'm glad we're finally talking about a decent human being. Una, it's about time. Not that Abraham Lincoln isn't a decent human being. We just did not talk about him that much.
Right. No, and I to that point, I loved how our 1860 episodes are like we're like the DC Misfit spinoff. It's like we're not actually it's never about Captain America. It's just like
No,
all these like B-list superheroes that know they're B-list superheroes. And so
no,
they
the
get
quote
together and it's their whole adventure arc. That's what we got. I love it.
oh, yeah, that's pretty much the whole podcast. Is we're all the spinoff shows. Well, if that elevator pitch doesn't keep you coming back next week, I'll come up with something else that does. Either which way, thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week on Gad.
Yay.
I hope that's the theme song. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.